So it's been a couple of days and I've just been looking at this thing out. I'm trying to write something for this and nothing's coming out, so I'm just gonna wing it. This isn't this month's post, that'll still be like said Momo. This one is the letter from Mayoiga. It's written from like Kataoka Tomo, the guy that was pretty popular in like different ages. I'm just gonna call it like Mayo for sure. It's gonna be a lot easier for me. A while back, people would call it like Narcissu, and that's probably like the most well known from the West. And technically, he also did like Lamune or whatever it's called, and it's like an anime from a long time ago as well. But it's always like overshadowed by other titles like Clannad or Air or something like that. And I think Christmas Teen is probably the popular one in the East, but my favorite is still Winter Polaris. It's great, but I think it's also like not as well known. Anyway, the important thing is he's an author I like. Not in my favorites like Setoguchi or Romeo, but in like the top 10 or something, maybe top 15. I generally don't dislike anything he wrote about so far, even though it's like rarely fleshed out. He's one that seems to hate like excessive padding to the point that the tension or the emotional impact can get like cut short, and it's the same case for this one. And it's funny because he knows about it and he just wants things to be more like lighthearted than not. Really, this feels like a lighthearted version of like Rain Marginal or Rainy Marginal or something like that. And this one just has like characters that bounce off ideas. And the first half is like mainly on the three central characters, the being called Susu and the two siblings, the Nafuyu and Risa. Susu is the one that resides in the Mayo. It's gonna sound dumb. The siblings are around like the village because of summer vacation and crap. And the neighbor in the village tells them to avoid Susu if they somehow see her. You don't really interact with anybody else in the village. The neighbor's like the stand-in for all of them. Anyway, Nafuyu travels ahead to see what's up with all like the shit and sees the Mayo. And that's where he finds Susu, who likes like, she looks like a normal girl. And the whole thing's like, hey, she looks normal inside the Mayo. And if she's near you outside, she also looks fine. But otherwise she looks like really scary to people. It's some curse shit. I'm skipping over it. It's like kind of spoiler, but not really. After that, it's just Nafuyu trying to figure out how all of this works and trying to find workarounds. And all of that is because the main drawback is that the Mayo splits the memory into like two sets, I guess. One for everyday life and the other for anytime you're in the area effect of the Mayo. So anytime anyone leaves the Mayo or leaves the range between them and Susu, they forget anything that was happening that was related to the Mayo until they're in like the range again, and I think it's like a meter and a half or something. So a lot of the shenanigans come from that and how to keep their memories, but this is really only an issue when it's coupled with the other curse that makes her look scary. Once that's fixed, any of the upcoming issues would be easily solvable, and they just kept going with it. You just, why? Part of it is just common sense. Some of it is like fucked up communication, but a lot of it is just like you have to keep up the suspension of disbelief, otherwise it just pisses you off. So just don't think about it and it'll be fun. There's a lot of things that happen that don't really matter, and it's something that circles around like gambling with fate. They don't know what will work, so they throw everything at the wall and then make it harder on themselves for no real reason. Like there's one character where she doesn't bring the information she needs with her because it wouldn't be fair, and it's basically because they're like gambling that they will remember and it's never happened before, so it's gonna be like their miracle, right? And this scenario happens every so often. It's like, yeah, you're fucking up your own chances each time, you're retarded. It's just a character trait, but it's like it happens multiple times. Basically, if you see a scene and think like, oh, the specific object will be important for the finale, or like any part later on, like 90% of the time you'll be wrong. And one of the things I remember working would actually not work. It's never mentioned that it was still there until right now, nor will it ever be functional over all these years that with all this rain, this thing would be deteriorated to all hell. Other things I can say is that the opening song is really catchy and nostalgic to me. Risa, or I guess the little sister archetype, is written as kind of annoying until they develop them a little bit. Like it's one of those things where they weren't raised well and they're just spoiled and they're annoying. They're not cock blocky because there's no like romance in this thing, but they feel cock blocky. The flow of the plot is pretty fast throughout the title to its own like detriment. Almost anytime there's like a good moment, it's going to zoom by it, but because it's like, hey, I have more things to talk about. Except the more things are just extra characters that randomly pop in to either like answer something or they're like a setup to make the next scene make sense. Like I get why they're in the plot and they're used well, but the plot can also be written around it pretty easily and you could focus on just the three main characters. It didn't need to like a reach around that oversaturates some aspects but then really bring up like other parts. And it's like, hey, it's mainly like a folklore thing where explaining how things work can mess up the fun. What's with the extra kimonos they have to bring? Why does the radio work but not this watch? How does the memory thing work? Is it like just a safety feature like we talked about? Are the gods spiteful and jealous? It explained the range, but then at that point, why make the person perceivable anyway? There's a lot of little things where it's like, okay, why is this here? I don't know. It's just have fun. Overall, I'm giving it a 6, and that's like a borderline 6, more of a 5. I had fun with it, but it's one of those things where you try not to think about the rules of the plot. There's funny parts where it's like, hey, this is a big problem, and then you see a solution to it, and you're like, okay, but they don't know. But then other characters know how to fix it, but they don't know the situation to help them. But then links start happening, but nothing still gets handled. But then the second epilogue happens, like, hey, now I'm wondering how nothing was ever investigated for these 20 years, or like 20 to 30 years. Like, what nothing was done. This is the plot shouldn't have gone to this point. And that's about it for this one.